Is it soup yet?
Well, I can smell it. I can smell it in the kitchen. We're not in the den with it in the bowls, but look, on a bipartisan basis on both sides of the Capitol, serious work is being done on COVID-19 relief, something that many of us have advocated for months. And I'm so pleased that Speaker Pelosi has dropped her incredible broad non-pandemic wish list and her dollar expectations that you heard about a few minutes ago of over $3 trillion, and that we're focused on targeted relief that will benefit families, schools, hospitals, governors, and small businesses right now.
Congressman, we've been hearing at the sort of 11th hour, 59th minute, about concerns about some of that 13.3, the emergency funding that the Fed had and gave back to the Treasury, also perhaps about FEMA. I understand there's some back and forth, some negotiation going on. Could any of this stop the deal?
You know, in my view, I don't think so. I think our leadership on both sides of the aisle, both sides of the Capitol, are committed to targeted relief for our families. They're crying out for it now. This debate about the Fed funding is an important one, but the Fed has the sufficient resources in the new year with a new administration to take actions that they might need to do in the case of a market liquidity challenge. In the meantime, this CARES Act money was not needed to the extent that we appropriated it. And I think Pat Toomey and Mitch McConnell have done the right thing by proposing to take it back into the Treasury and reallocate it in a much more targeted, needed way, such as rental assistance, extending unemployment compensation, extending the Paycheck Protection Program.
Congressman, I want to turn to another story, I think a very important story that's pending right now, and that is reports of this massive, I think it's fair to say, cyber attack, apparently from Russia, on U.S. and also private computers, state computers back here in the United States. Do we have a sense of how big this is and what the ramifications are?
I think we're just learning how big and pervasive it is, when it started, and the ramifications of it. As the ranking member on the National Security Subcommittee in the House for Financial Services, I'm sure we'll be very involved in evaluating sanctions against those responsible for this, both at the legislative level and reviewing executive sanctions proposed by the Treasury against Russia or a non-state actor that was involved. But let me say this, David, this is something that America plans for in the private sector and the public sector. And we coordinate ably through the FBI on this. So we'll get to the bottom of it, and the people who caused this will pay a price for it.
It appears, Congressman, that some people have been right in saying this is the next frontier of, if I can put it this way, even war, cyber war in a fashion. You've served in senior positions in the Treasury as well as the White House. Do we need to rethink the emphasis we put on this as a government? Do we need to even perhaps restructure the National Security Council or the Department of Homeland Security?
Well, cyber threats are taken seriously by the FBI, by our fusion center that we have that involves the private sector and all the public sector actors, both in defense, homeland security, and in our intelligence agencies. But the emphasis, we need to be asking our colleagues in the executive branch what additional appropriations, what additional powers or legislative changes would be something that would help us even counter cyber threats more so. But I don't want your listeners to view that cyber risk and cyber threats aren't taken seriously by the U.S. government. They have been for years, and they continue to be. We'll see what we learn from this and react accordingly on what we need to do different and do better.
But from your answer to my first question, Congressman, it sounds like you think we definitely need to have, as a tool, retaliation.
We definitely have that as a tool. There's no doubt about that. We have all kinds of ways and means inside our intelligence and defense operations to counter cyber attacks and to counter it in a proactive way.
Right.